Hello. When we daily think of the Roman Empire, we often remember Caesar, who had such a pivotal role that his name became synonymous with power, and is still in use today by kings, footballers, or pizzas. Back then, during his lifetime, before Caesar became a Caesar, when he was just an upstart, another name had a similar ring to the Romans. That big guy was Saturn. Saturn was an important character to the Romans, believed to be the best of rulers, the inventor of agriculture, the master of time, the creator of cities, and the builder of Cyclopean walls. The story of Saturn begins in Greece, at an unclear old time, at least as distant to the Romans as the Romans are to us. He was then called Kronos, a Titan, brother to the Cyclops, and son of the evil ruler Uranus. After a successful coup, including castrating his father, Kronos, by now the god of time, gets to rule Olympus for a relatively short period. Kronos tried to prolong his reign by eating his own sons, but he is tricked by his wife and sister, who feeds him a rock instead of the younger boy Zeus. Once grown up, Zeus completely cuts off Kronos, castrates him and expels him from Olympus. This phallic obsession can be traced into the carvings on the Cyclopean walls in Italy. As we've seen in the last video, hope you'll drop an eye onto that too. Humiliated, Kronos flees to Italy, where he reinvents himself as Saturn, introduces agriculture, manages to rise to power, and rules over a period of exceptional prosperity and peace that would materialize in a few cities, all of them with rings of Cyclopean walls. The poet Virgil names 5 such Saturnian cities: Aletrium, Anagnia, Arpino, Atina, Antinum. But if we look at the other 20 cities nearby with similar Cyclopean rings, we might think Virgil was listing them alphabetically, but did not reach the letter B. Of what we can see today, Alatri is Saturn's brightest ring, where we can admire how the Cyclopean walls make up for a temple of time, a clock, packed with astronomical alignments. Thus, making sense of the relationship to Kronos, the Greek god of time, together with the introduction of agriculture, which requires a good understanding of the seasons. Eventually, the prosperous times of Saturn would decline and his cities were occupied by a random bunch of Italic tribes, said to be illiterate brutes, unappreciative of Saturn's heritage, in a similar fate to what the Romans would face themselves with the Germanic invasions a few millennia later. The memory of Saturn as the creator of wealth, peace and Cyclopean walls was preserved and admired by the Romans in everyday events like we do today with Caesar. As Caesar named the month of July a list of political heads and a salad, Saturn named a ringed planet similar to his ringed walled cities, a weekend fever, Saturday, and a December feast featuring gift sharing and excessive eating, once called Saturnalia and now Christmas. Well, that was a great story, but it's probably all fake. The sources we have are recent, from the Roman Empire, not even from the older Roman kingdom, when the Saturnian cities were independent from Rome and had a saying. However, the fact is, these stories rang very true to the Romans, in a way that fitted with what they could see around them, including the Cyclopean walls. The Romans, like ourselves, did not know who built these mysterious walls. All they knew was that they were old and impressive. They also knew the Italic tribes living there were rough and uncultured. By the time the Romans were establishing themselves as the top dog in Italy, the peninsula was divided in three major cultures, with recent Greek colonies to the south and slightly older Etruscan cities to the north, and the Romans plus other Latins in the middle. These three newcomers were displacing a ragtag group of brute Italic tribes that lived inside magnificent one-eyed city walls, getting Romans to conclude that such fine constructions with brilliant astronomical clocks had been built with external help. A similar conclusion to what the classic Greek historians reached, both in Italy and in Greece, with them calling not Saturnian but Cyclopean the brothers of Kronos, or Pelasgian, meaning the first of men, whenever they came across these chronologically challenged monocular walls. A deduction that, I believe, can be applied to all the Stone Age clocks we see around Europe. The cromlechs or the engines, like the famous Stone Age. These are astronomical clocks that celebrate the arrival of foreign timekeeping. I say this because a calendar has to be developed over centuries. Let's imagine one spends his free time looking at the sky. The day and night cycle gets sorted out quite fast, in a few days. The seasons, in a few years. Other complications, like the planets, the comets, or the matching of the moon with the sun, will take full centuries, or millennia even. By then, after all that time laying on their back, the people looking at the sky were not so impressed with themselves. At least as not to build celebratory calendars with multi-ton stones. Unless they had a clever visitor, one that transmitted the knowledge all at once, or as magic, accurately predicted some unusual event in the sky, like a planet retrograde. Putting on a star show could give status to a foreigner, crediting him with controlling time, inventing agriculture, making him a king or a god, all deserving of an astrological clock / temple / mansion in the high city. I think the astrological clock and the ring of Cyclopean walls around it, in Alatri as in many other cities nearby, convinced the Romans of a civilizing influence, the arrival of a very wise and powerful visitor, one they called Saturn. These days, we tend to see religion as, at most, a moral endeavor, without technical application. But, back then, in the time of Saturn, expectations for the living gods were greater. They had to bring about not morals but practical tools to improve the standard of living, to create wealth. To conclude on that, in the next video we'll finalize the trip into Italy arguing how the Cyclopean walls were the Bronze Age equivalent of a billionaire's super yacht. Hope you like it. See you soon.